a stranded sailor once escaped a valley of giant serpents by tying himself to a piece of raw meat. This is Simple Tales. Long ago, in the golden age of Baghdad, lived a man named Sinbad the Sailor. He had already survived many perilous voyages and grown rich from his adventures. Yet the call of the sea never left his heart. The waves promised both fortune and danger, and Sinbad could never resist their pull for long. On one such voyage, his ship anchored near a lush, beautiful island covered in fragrant trees, colorful flowers, and sparkling streams. The sailors rejoiced and went ashore to rest and refresh themselves. Sinbad wandered deeper into the island than the others, drawn by its peaceful beauty. Beneath the shade of a tall tree, he sat down to rest. The gentle breeze and warm sun soon lulled him into a deep sleep. When he awoke, the sun was already sinking toward the sea. He hurried back to the shore, only to find his worst fear realized. The ship was gone. His companions had sailed away without him, leaving him stranded on what now felt like a beautiful prison. Sinbad shouted across the water until his voice grew hoarse, but no answer came. As night began to fall, he climbed a hill, hoping to find shelter or fresh water. From the top, he noticed something extraordinary in the distance, a great white dome resting on a flat plain. It was perfectly smooth, and so enormous he could not see over its curved surface. Curious, Sinbad walked around it again and again. Then the truth dawned on him. This was no building or temple. It was an egg. And only one legendary creature in all the world could lay an egg of such gigantic size. The rock. Stories of the mighty rock had circulated among sailors for generations. They said its wings were so vast they could block out the sun, and it was strong enough to carry full-grown elephants in its talons. Sinbad's heart filled with both wonder and dread. As darkness deepened, a vast shadow swept across the island. The sky itself seemed to darken. The rock had returned to its nest. Its wings stretched wider than the greatest sails Sinbad had ever seen. Its cry echoed like thunder across the waves. Sinbad knew he could not survive long on the island alone. In that moment of desperation, a bold and dangerous plan formed in his mind. He unwound his turban and used the long cloth to tie himself securely to one of the rock's massive legs. He prayed this wild gamble would not be his last. At dawn, the giant bird stirred. It spread its enormous wings and launched powerfully into the sky. Sinbad rose with it, lifted high above the island. The ocean far below became a vast sheet of blue glass. Mountains passed beneath them like mere hills. For hours, the rock soared through the heavens, carrying its unexpected passenger across vast distances. Finally, the great bird began to descend, landing in a deep, narrow valley surrounded by sheer, unclimbable cliffs. Sinbad quickly untied himself and hid among the rocks before the rock could notice him. At first he believed he had escaped. Then he looked around and gasped. The ground of the entire valley sparkled and glittered. Diamonds of every size covered the earth. Small ones like pebbles, large ones like boulders of pure crystal. Sinbad had stumbled upon the legendary Valley of Diamonds, a place spoken of only in the wildest sailor tales. Yet his joy was short-lived. The cliffs were impossibly steep. And as daylight began to fade, terrifying movements stirred among the rocks. Enormous serpents emerged from caves and crevices. Vipers thicker than tree trunks with venom, powerful enough to kill instantly. As night fell, the valley became a deadly realm of slithering shadows and glowing eyes. Sinbad hid inside a small cave and waited anxiously for morning. When dawn finally returned, he searched desperately for any way to escape. Then, something strange began to happen. Large chunks of raw meat suddenly fell from the sky. One after another, they landed among the diamonds. Sinbad remembered an old tale he had once heard. Merchants who sought the valley's diamonds could not climb down themselves. Instead, they threw large pieces of meat from the cliffs above. The sticky flesh would collect diamonds. Then, giant birds would carry the meat to their nests. The merchants would drive the birds away and recover both the meat and the gems. This was Sinbad's only chance. He gathered as many of the finest diamonds as he could carry in his pouch. Then he tied himself beneath the largest piece of meat he could find. Hours passed. At last, a great eagle descended from above. Its talons seized the meat. A moment later, Sinbad was soaring upward once again. The eagle carried him beyond the cliffs and landed near its nest atop the mountains. Moments later, merchants rushed forward, shouting and waving sticks to frighten the bird away. When they pulled aside the meat, they stared in complete astonishment. Instead of diamonds alone, they found a living man. Sinbad quickly explained his incredible journey. The abandoned ship, the giant egg, the flight on the rock, the diamond valley, and the deadly serpents. The merchants listened in amazement. When they saw the magnificent diamonds he had brought with him, they welcomed him as a brother and shared their food and water. In time, Sinbad returned safely to Baghdad. The diamonds brought him great wealth, but the true treasure was the story itself. He had survived a deserted island, ridden a rock through the sky, escaped a valley of deadly serpents, and turned desperation into salvation through courage, patience, and quick thinking. And that is why Sinbad remains one of the most enduring heroes of the Arabian Nights. Unlike warriors who win through strength, or magicians who command supernatural powers, Sinbad survives through resilience, observation, and ingenuity. Again and again, he finds himself in impossible situations. Again and again, he finds a way home. The universal lesson is this: life rarely offers perfect choices. When every path seems dangerous, success often belongs to those who stay calm, adapt to changing circumstances, and seize the opportunities others fail to notice. What first appears to be disaster may become the beginning of an extraordinary journey. And sometimes survival itself is the greatest adventure of all. If you enjoyed this tale of wonder, survival, and daring adventure, share it with someone who loves stories of exploration and the triumph of human ingenuity. Thank you for listening. Until the next one.